Horrible Harry Goes to the Moon by Suzy Kline. Who gets to sit on the moon? I'll never forget the month of October in 3rd grade. That was when Harry took me to the moon. I know it sounds crazy, but he did. Harry took me to the moon. This is how it all started. It was a Monday. We were sitting on the rug having our morning conversation when Miss Mackle said, "I have a surprise for you, class." We all looked at the teacher. She had a huge brown package. It was bigger than my desk. "What's that?" Sydney blurted out. "An inspiration," Miss Mackle said. And it was on sale at Big Mart. Slowly, the teacher unwrapped the brown packaging. It was a purple couch made of 3 cushions. When we saw the bright yellow moons on it, we went doohoo. We watched the teacher open up the couch and lay it flat on the floor. Then she sat on it. Now the couch looked like an air mattress with a comfy place for your head. Harry sat down next to her. "Neato," he said. "I'm sitting on the moon." "You mean the purple couch with yellow moons on it," Mary explained as she plopped down on the other side of the teacher. "Hey, I get to sit here too," Sydney protested. Then he sat on Mary. "Ouch!" Mary groaned. "Get off, Sid." "I was here first." "Okay, boys and girls," Miss Mackle replied. "How can we make this fair?" Harry flashed a toothy smile. "It seems fair to me right now." Everyone frowned except Song Lee. She giggled. Mary pushed Sydney off. "I have an idea," I said. "Yes, Doug?" Miss Mackle replied. "We have a monitor chart. We could make sitting on the couch a job." "Cool," Dexter said. Miss Mackle laughed. "A job? Well, I guess it could be for one day. And if we go in ABC order," Mary suggested, "it would be really fair." Miss Mackle nodded. "I figured it out," I said. "If there are 21 kids in the class, and only 2 get to sit on the couch each day, everyone gets a turn once every 2 weeks. "Good math, Doug," Miss Mackle said. "But is there a remainder?" We all thought about it. Mary replied first. "There's a remainder of 1. Then she paused. "I wonder who the last person in ABC order would be in our class. The person who has to wait 3 weeks for a turn." Everyone looked around while Mary continued thinking aloud. "That would be Shows Hannah White, but she moved last month. So, that means Spudger would be the remainder." Everyone stared at Harry. "Harry Spudger's last." Sydney shouted. "No, I'm not," said the squid. "You are," Harry replied. "Hey, nicknames don't count," Sydney snapped. Mary ignored the boys and looked at Ida. "We get to go first," she sang. Their last names were Berg and Burrell. Harry folded his arms. "I'm not leaving. I was here first. We can start the ABC order tomorrow." "Excuse me," Ida said as she stood over him. Harry didn't budge. "Harry?" Miss Mackle said. "Your turn will be coming up." "Yeah, once in a blue moon," he grumbled. "Interesting," Miss Mackle said. "Do you know what that means, Harry? Once in a blue moon?" "Yeah. Doesn't everybody?" Mary leaned forward. She wanted to know, but she wasn't going to ask. Harry licked his lips. He loved secrets. "I know lots of stuff about the moon." I watch the science guy on TV every day after school. Miss Mackle said. How many of you would like to collect some facts about the moon? Everyone waved their hands in the air. I know where to find some, Mary said, getting up. In our green science book. Then she went over to her desk. Harry jumped up and pointed to his brain. I bet I have more moon facts in my noodle than you do in that old book. Mary laughed. You don't know anything about the moon. Do too, Harry said. Do not, Mary replied. Miss Mackle smiled. I bet she was glad they weren't fighting over the couch anymore. Now they were just fighting over the moon. 10 minutes later, Ida and Dexter brought 8 moon books from the library. Song Lee and I went over to the computer and got on the internet. Harry went to the closet and got out the big box of old newspapers and magazines. After he rummaged around for a while, he pulled out 2 sections of a newspaper. The classifieds and the comics. Cool, he said. You'll never find moon facts there, Mary scolded. I just did, Harry said, cutting something out. Mary took off her glasses. Harry Spudger, I wish you would go to the moon. What, Mary? I said. I wish you would go to the moon. Harry mumbled. I'll think about that. While Harry nodded his head, Mary rolled her eyes. Jokes and jumps. All that week everyone collected moon facts. Except Sydney. He kept going around the room cracking dumb jokes. When is a door not a door? A few of us looked up. When it's a jar. Get it? Sydney cackled. Mary didn't laugh. Sydney Lafleur, we are busy studying the moon. Your joke has nothing to do with space. So get lost. Sydney scowled as he wandered over to the old newspaper and magazine box. He pulled out a Reader's Digest and flipped through it. Hey, he said. They have jokes in here. Cool. At least Sydney stopped pestering us. During math time, we took turns lining up by the chalkboard. We got a piece of chalk and marked how high we could reach. Don't stand on your toes, Miss Mackle said. Just make a chalk mark as high as you can. We did that. Remember to record the next mark. As you jump. Ready? Set? Jump. Miss Mackle called. 3 of us jumped into the air as high as we could. We made a quick mark on the board when we were at the top of our leap. I bet I jumped the highest. Harry bragged. Miss Mackle used a ruler to measure the space between the 2 chalk marks. She rounded it off to make it easy. Whoa! Harry exclaimed. I jumped 1 foot. That means you jumped 6 feet on the moon, Mary said. Because there's 6 times less gravity. It said that in our green science book. I jumped 10 inches. Song Lee said. That's 60 inches on the moon or 5 feet, I added. Same as me. When Mary finally jumped, she barely got off the ground. 4 inches, Miss Mackle said softly. 4 times 6 is 24 inches, I whispered. I didn't want to embarrass Mary. Everyone else had jumped higher than her. 2 feet on the moon, Harry shouted. Thanks, Harry Spudger. Mary groaned. Hey Mary, Sydney interrupted. I know what you need, a good joke. This one's about outer space. Mary took off her glasses. Oh, spells and oh, she shouted. Miss Mackle took a step back. Song Lee tried to cheer Mary up. I drew this for you. Then she handed Mary a picture of them jumping rope on a sunny day. Mary managed to smile a little. After everyone had a turn to jump, Miss Mackle looked around the room. Sydney had his head down. He looked pretty sad. I think we need a break, Miss Mackle said as she walked over to Sydney's desk. Does anyone know a joke about outer space? Sydney's head popped up like a red fishing bobber. I do. I found one in Reader's Digest. It's about heaven. That's out there in space like the moon. Please, Mary moaned. It must be a good one then, Sydney. Tell it to us, Miss Mackle said with a smile. I have it memorized, Sydney bragged. Then he walked up to the front of the room. Well, Sam and Mike were friends. They both loved sports. They grew up together. Even when they were old, they hung out together. Then one day when Sam was 90, he died. The class was pin quiet. Sydney continued. A year later, Sam looked down from heaven at his friend Mike. Hey, Mike. It's me. Is that you, Sam? Yup, I'm up here in heaven. What's it like up there? Well, there's good news and bad news. What's the good news? We play baseball every day in heaven. Great! What's the bad news? You're pitching tomorrow. When Sydney finished, Harry slapped his knee. That was a good one, Sid. Song Lee and Miss Mackle giggled. I don't get it, Mary said. Well, Harry explained. If Mike's pitching tomorrow, it means he's going to die next and join Sam in heaven. Oh, Mary replied. You have to use your noodle, Harry said, pointing to his brain. Oh, Harry! Mary snapped. Why don't you go to the moon? Hey, I've been thinking about that. I just need to work on a few details, like how to